I would say Death of Superman Omnibus is crazy. X-Men All. What? That was the first omnibus that I ever sold to break my collection to like not have every omnibus. So for me, the Infinity Gauntlet, yo, you're tripping. What's going on, everybody? It's your boy GemMint. The other day, I made a post in our Facebook group, Geminites. What was the worst omnibus that you've ever read? Whether it's something that you read and you had to stop reading it, you had to put it down, or did you get all the way through it and it was just the worst one you've ever read? I don't know what made me think of it, but it caused a little bit of a stir. By the way, make sure to come join the Facebook group. Like I said, it's called Geminites. Oh, let me show you right here. Yeah, here we go. Geminites, omnibus hoarders, comic book readers, and statue collectors. It's really a big group of a lot of omnibus readers. I think that's like the most interaction we see there. So that's kind of what made me think to post this. And I let them know, hey, answers may be used in a video. So if you don't want your face and name to be on YouTube, then, you know what I'm saying, heed the asterisk. So Christopher Young. I haven't read, I've seen some of these, but I haven't gone through all these. I dislike those random assortment of comics that don't have a central story, like the Marvel 75th Anniversary Omni or the Marvel Now Omni. I've never completely read one of those. I agree with you. Like the compilation omnibus, those are not my favorite. I could do without. I think I see, yeah, somebody else, I did reply and I liked one comment, but what I did notice from what I glanced at, a lot of people agreed with me on these Grant Morrison Batman omnibus. It's such a weird thing. There's people out there like the Grant Morrison Batman omnibus is my favorite series of omnis, my favorite Batman stories. I wasn't a fan of it. Like I dug the first omni that dealt with like what Damian Wayne, and then I remember issue 2. There was so much happening off screen, so to say, like not in the omni that mattered in the omni. That's what I remember. Brandon Miller hated everything about it. Gave up 2/3 of the way through it. On volume 2. I think I gave up on volume 3. Unless I reviewed it. If I reviewed it, I read all of it. Yes, he looked Dustin Craig. What the fuck? Because people love Grant Morrison's Batman. Benjamin Solis, longtime Gemini. I was excited and interested in reading the X-Men Inferno storyline, and when I finally got to it, I was so disappointed and didn't enjoy the material at all. That's kind of how I felt about the X-Men volume 2. The Jim Lee, Chris Claremont Omni, and I made a video of it, and people were in there like, what the fuck? Inferno, I enjoyed it, but like I always kind of say, it feels like Louise Simonson writing this fairy tale that could have been any characters and just insert mutants here. And it just felt like that 80s, late 80s cartoon story fantasy vibe. I dug it. It wasn't my favorite X-Men storyline, but Inferno was all right. Well, I would recommend it on a top 10 X-Men stories. If I had to think about it, Inferno would be, I'd have to make a top 10. Anyway, Rogie Lee, X-Men Grand Design. Damn. Shout out to Ed Piskor, though. Cool dude. And I did like Grand Design for the same reasons why this guy didn't really like it. He said didn't make it a quarter of the way through. Although it looks amazing, it was a tough read. Seemed like it jumped from scene to scene with no sense of story at all. Only Omni I've never finished. Yo, it just wasn't for you. Huss says, I mean, it's literally supposed to be cliff notes for continuity. Yeah, a panel could be like a storyline. I dug it because it felt like you got the condensed 30-year history of the X-Men and, you know, the omnibus. New X-Men art was atrocious. Damn. That's Grant Morrison as well, isn't it? But Frank Quietly, I believe, is the artist. And that one is an acquired taste. It's not my favorite art, but there are some diehard Frank Quietly fans out there too. So let's see. Josh replies, this was the first bad omnibus I've ever read. It was one of the first that made me sell an omnibus because the art was so bad. Damn. Yeah, from Frank Q. Yeah. Absolute lies, except for the Weapon 13 issues. I like New X-Men. I could appreciate a story even if I don't love the art. We've talked about this back in the day on the channel. I could dig a storyline, and it wasn't Grant Morrison. I felt it wasn't Grant Morrison E. It was like one of those accessible Grant Morrison runs that led into the Josh Whedon run. I liked it. Lois says, the one I got in my gem crate, the Marvel 1961 Omni. It's got Kirby Ditko art, which I can appreciate, but the stories are so basic, it's hard to read. Still finished half of it, but not coming back to it anytime soon. Why, Steven, why? That's because we were doing the gem crates via giveaways, and I would give away an omnibus, and that was just one I gave away. It's a compilation. I'm not really a fan of them as well. Yeah. I wrote back to him. That's why I sent it to you. Oh man, yo, a lot of this group, man, this group has been around for what, like 5 years now? I want to say since 2018, right? At least a lot of these people are people that have been there the whole time, man. Matt V, how do you say your name, Matt? Vorderstrasse. I'm probably going to get kicked in the crotch for this, but House of M. After the initial series, it was just bullshit. I wish I had done the series in chronological order, how they fit in the story. Okay, yeah, so the mapping on the Omni, they just did the main series and then all the tie-ins after what the... Yeah, so that's not so much the story, but more how that omnibus was made, which was what I asked. Is it common for Marvel to do this? I always forget whether or not they always do this. Do they always do main story and then all the tie-ins? Because, yeah, sometimes it's like... I'm done with the story, and now you're telling me all this shit that happened during this time, and then to bounce around by yourself, no one's doing that. You got to be an insane person to bounce back and forth within the same omnibus. Comment down below if you do that. Nah, House of M is lame. See, Dustin just saying off top from the story, it looks like. Ed Lute, long-time Gemini. Justice League New 52, Volume 1. Isn't that the Jim Lee stuff? I remember reading the Absolute. Started off very good, then the Shazam arc was excellent, but the rest of the omnibus was a letdown. Volume 2 really picked up the slack and then knocked it out the park. Batman by Grant Morrison, I'm with you. I like Volume 1 though, again. It was supposed to be a great run, but I couldn't get into it. Agree, in fact, we could just buy Volume 2 and read the Shazam origin story separately. Derek, shout out D-Rock. Extreme X-Men was pretty rough. Oh, Brian McDonald, never read an Omni blind. Damn. Justin Ray. Yo, shout out to Sean Lee. How do you always say that? Tristan. Only 2 Omnis I got rid of because I didn't like them. First was the Dan Slott's She-Hulk. I finished it, but wasn't a fan, so sold it. The second one I get a lot of hate for, but it was Planetary. Couldn't even finish it. Damn, I loved Planetary. It's a tough read for sure. I didn't think so, and I'm not the brightest guy. I thought I got through it fine. X-Men, the animated series. I saw this at a glance, and I was kind of surprised. Damn, Kevin Sperry. Hold up. X-Men, the animated series. The omnibus is dope, man. You're crazy. Final Crisis. I'm with you. Final Crisis feels like I'm not smart enough for Final Crisis. I feel like there's so much more I needed to know going into it. I read it one time front to back. This was one of my first omnibus reads before I started the channel. Maybe doing a reread would help me get through that one. I'm very intimidated by some of that DC Crisis shit, man. Dustin Gragg's crazy. Spider-Man 2099. Literally nothing happens post the origin issue. What are you talking about, man? A bunch of shit happens. Check my review out. I thought I did a good job on that review going through everything that happened within that omnibus. I liked it. Matt Stowboss says Dan Slott Iron Man. I didn't read it. Ellie Font, shout out Ellie Font. King and Black Omnibus takes tops for me here. I love the main event, but the tie-ins were pretty bad, ranging from boring to downright irritating to read. I read all that stuff in single issues. I kind of dug it. You know, compared to what was coming out, those were like highlights I remember during those weekly reviews, along with the indie stuff. But like for Marvel, I remember liking King and Black. Johnny Gibbons, is that Gibbons Gang? Gibbon Gang. Shout out Reggie Collects. The Flash playing Paradox had a good car story, but all the tie-ins, I think he auto-corrected the Flashpoint Paradox. Is that what it is? All the tie-ins seemed unnecessary and more like space fillers. That's kind of like a common trend with events, right? All right, next up we have Adam Palmeter, and I think he's a statue guy too, and it makes sense when you read his comment. He goes, everyone. I love the concept, but the form is way too big. Drop them and get tired hands, hence why I do trade paperbacks or digital. Okay, so still a reader. Maybe could go in the cons section. Also, digital collectors are rad. Why are you holding them? Yeah, right? I hold them. I got that grip, baby. I be holding them like bowling balls. Reading, sitting, or in bed. I don't read at a desk. I do all those too. They make foam or wooden holders to use in bed recliners. Yeah, you could do that. I don't do either. I read them laying on my side, on the couch, face down in bed. I only read smaller books while sitting or walking. Yo, comment below. How do you read your Omnis? Do you hold them? Do you have to have them on a desk? Are you laying sideways? What are these guys doing? All right, Scott says, Bob Harris was by far the worst Avengers writer. Worse than, and I've never said this before, Chuck Austin. It's tragic that The Gathering and The Crossing exist in omnibus form to potentially fool newer readers into wasting money on them. Add in Heroes Reborn for the trifecta of suck. Damn. You know what's funny? I've always known the joke about The Crossing. The Avengers Crossing is like the worst omnibus or whatever. And I guess The Gathering, I'd never read those events. I should read those just as a goof for the channel and just really read them. I should do that, yo. The Crossing Omnibus Review and The Gathering. Heroes Reborn I've read. I liked Heroes Reborn, man. That's where you had Liefeld. Who else? Jim Lee. These guys coming back to Marvel with the FF, the Iron Man, the Captain America stuff. I liked Heroes Reborn. And then I remember reading the... who did the newer Heroes Reborn? I read it in single issues, and they made an omnibus for it as well. It's not Jason Aaron, right? Anyway, you know who I'm talking about. Doug Eberly? I hated Superman by Tomasi, but it seemed universally loved. It was a predictable children's book to me. I think I read that one. I think I did a review on it. I remember liking it. The first half isn't bad, but the second half is truly awful. So much filler, and he clearly had ran out of ideas. He should have left after Black Dawn. Yeah, isn't that the one? Oh, no, I'm thinking about the one by Grant Morrison that had that callback on it. I would say Death of Superman Omnibus is crazy. I enjoyed the main story, but all the side stories were kind of boring, and I wish I never bought it. Where's the thumbs down on this shit, man? Yo, for real. I stopped where Superman died and I haven't gone on yet. You guys are bugged out, man. Bugging. This is one of my favorite omnibus. If I had to choose one Marvel omnibus and one DC omnibus, I think Death and Return of Superman would be my DC omnibus. Doom Patrol by Morrison, Batman Black and White, X-Men All. What? Wow, that's rare for a Doom Patrol run. How come? Three-way tie. X-Men vs. Apocalypse to 12. I saw somebody else say that one. I've never read that one. Eve of Destruction. I don't remember what that is. Revolution. Oh, though these are all X-Men ones. Eve of Destruction has its own omnibus? I see a lot of event omni hate. Tie-ins are pretty trash typically, not gonna lie. I think the last event I thoroughly enjoyed was Civil War. Yeah, that's kind of like par for the course, right? This is just a personal thing. What up, Mike? But I really hated the Elektra omnibus by Frank Miller, purely for the art, just not my cup of tea. That was the first omnibus that I ever sold to break my collection to like not have every omnibus. It was a whale, right? It was sold out of print. It was going for more on the aftermarket. I had got it for cover price with a custom dust jacket, which was weird. So I decided to sell it. I couldn't even finish that omnibus, man. And I'm a fan of the Frank Miller Daredevil top tier run. I'm a big fan of Frank Miller even later on. I like DK3. I like all the Batman stuff. But I just couldn't get into that Elektra, bro. It was like a novel on a painting. Yeah, it wasn't for me either. John Cross, Annihilation was dread to finish. That's one of the first big events omnis that I read, getting into omnis as well before I started the channel. I did all of them, all 5. Annihilation, Conquest, War of Kings and Realms, or whatever those other 3 omnis were. Invisibles by Morrison. I've never gotten into that. I was always too intimidated to get into it, man. What up, Blake? I think Blake's been mad at me recently, man. I got you, bro. I struggle with that one. It's almost a chore to get through. At times, it could be very good. Other times, it was like, what the fuck? Still, overall, it was a slog. Oh, what up, J-Rock? Captain America by Jurgens. Had a few good moments, but overall was a 4 out of 10 if we don't count the one good story arc. I don't think I've read that yet. Have not. Why the Last Man? Teen level drama. Hold on. Nah. I read Why the Last Man for the first time in absolute format, and I dug it, man. I dug the whole what if scenario. It reminded me of like the concept of a novel, but in a comic book format. So I liked Why the Last Man. The show, not as good. And I think the ending of Why the Last Man was like, oh shit, hey, we got to end it next issue. Let's do a quick, you know what I mean? Sean Leahy, 0 Hour, what a snooze fest is crazy. So that's a Crisis event, technically. It's a 90s one. I dug it. I read it, did a review on the channel. It was the Copper Age art that I like. Story was okay. I don't really remember thinking back. I'd have to check the video or flip through the pages. New villain, time, fading in and out of time was the whole theme. I dug it. I wouldn't put it on my most hated omnibus list. It's not on my best either. Yeah, people in the reviews, the review didn't do good either. Daredevil by Frank Miller is crazy. The ink or something on that book had a vapor that burned my eyes. The smell deteriorated after a while. So my book that's my most damaged omnibus, and I still read it damaged like that. I loved it. That was my first time reading it in omnibus format as well. Like most of the stuff. I really read comics very little as a kid because it was expensive. Got out of comics as a teen, young adult, and as an adult, I got back into reading them via these collected editions. Batman by Grant Morrison, I agree. Death and Return of Superman Omnibus, hard disagree, and he just says X-Men. Grant Morrison, Volume 1 I liked. Marvel Zombies, worst Omni I have. No way. It's not the best, but it ain't the worst. I didn't realize they had Steph. What up, Steph? Blurry. Why the Last Man? Ex Machina I haven't read. X-Men Legion I dug, man. Damn. Sold them all. I do proper research before buying Omnis, so to say been enjoying my collection, but if I really had to pick one, it's X-Men Age of Apocalypse Companion. While the main event's great, top 3 for me, the companion contains some cash grabs. I could do without the companion. The Flash Silver Age Omnibus Volumes 1 through 3. I learned my lesson the hard way that all Golden Age, Silver Age, and Bronze Age comics just aren't for me. Thanks for the replies on a lot of these posts too. I'm a completionist and I bought some Silver and Bronze and stuff for Teen Titans, JLA, and X-Men. Let's just say I'm no longer a completionist. Me neither. I had to sell stuff because it was a tough read. I knew I would never read them again. For me, Silver Age, like Spider-Man hits, Fantastic Four, and outside of that, it gets a little tough for me, man, especially going into DC stuff. Bronze, copper, it depends, man. Just depends on the creators. Yeah, see, I set out to become a completionist like you, and now I don't want to be one anymore. You got to learn, right? That's how we learn. She-Hulk by Dan Slott. I've tried that series 3 times and never finished. Yeah, if you try something 3 times, you give it your all at this point, right? Bad story and even worse art, just a waste of paper unless you like to overpay for your toilet paper. All right, bro. I got you. Aquaman by Jeff Johns. Did not like the corny, unfunny jokes in it. The Trench was pretty okay. Maybe kind of cool. Hated the other storyline. Oh, he wrote a book. I liked that omnibus, and it felt like they borrowed from that storyline for that first Aquaman movie, which did $1 billion. Yo, that's the highest grossing DC movie of all time, even over Dark Knight. Isn't that crazy? We were just talking about that on Comic Tom. I recorded with him earlier today. James Watson says, I'm surprised Morrison has not come up more as he seems to generate a very mixed review. I am a fan. So for me, the Infinity Gauntlet, yo, you're tripping. Damn. The main story, including the Silver Surfer, were great, but the second half times were forgettable and the new 52 villains. Oh, okay. That's the compilation one. Tripping on Infinity Gauntlet. Aunt Spav, all new Wolverine. Tom Taylor takes a badass character and just makes her boring. Didn't feel like the character I enjoyed before. I finished it because I'm stubborn and I was hoping it redeemed itself in the end. It's a long-ass video. James Woolard says, John Byrne's Doom Patrol. Love both artists and Doom Patrol, but geez, it was so bad. Ryan Carnahan? Batman by Morrison, Volume 3. I agree. I think that's the one I gave up on. Oh, he read it when it first came out on floppies, was mildly into it, read Omnibus Volume 1 recently and absolutely loved it. I remember liking it as well. I'm a big Damian Wayne fan. I think that's my favorite Robin. Then Volume 2 started dragging for me. By the time I got 1/3 of the way through Volume 3, I gave up completely. I think that's exactly what I did. Oh, see, I already like this one. Craig McDonald. What's up, Craig? Batman by Grant Morrison, Volume 2. Hard agree. I read the first one and I thought it'd be decent enough to read. I just couldn't get through the second one. The third one stares at me, daring me to open it. I like that. Actually, you know what? Craig, you deserve... Oh, damn. Hold up. Silver Age, Golden Age stuff. This is an omnibus I sold too. What up, Greg? The Ultimate Avengers omnibus, not the Ultimates Omni, is hand down some of the worst stories and art that Marvel has published. Mark Miller too. Storm Snyder, Venomous Volume 2 was pretty damn bad. There's no way I'm agreeing with that, man. Venom, all Venom buses are awesome. Amazing Spider-Man Volume 5 was very rough to read. The Len Wein stuff was just garbage. Damn, is that where the stuff goes from silver to bronze, right? Thomas Ryan says, AVX Omnibus feels forced. Jason Aaron's crimes against the Phoenix Force takes up a lot of space on my shelf. Worst part is that the event bridges the gap between two of my favorite X-Men eras, the Messiah era and the X-Men by Bendis era, so I can't get rid of it. So there it sits. See, I liked AVX much more than the Bendis X-Men era, and I did like the Messiah era. I read those in oversized hardcovers. That was one of my first ongoing events, me getting back into reading comics, going to the comic shop every week, picking up all the tie-ins, all the main stories, getting variants. Maybe it has a special place in my heart for that. I liked it. I liked that big thing. Oh, they made this Phoenix Force out of the Phoenix. X-Men vs. the Apocalypse, the 12, garbage. What up, Terrell Young? Damn, I haven't read that, man. And that's like the follow-up to AOA, right? So that's crazy. Andrew Groman, World War Hulk, loved the main run, but the way the omnibus was mapped made me never want to buy another event book again, and I really wanted to read that event, similar to what we heard above with King in Black. This looks like the last comment. Ryan Longdid. Heroes Reborn Omnibus. A handful of diarrhea is what that thing is. The art was awesome, though. Yo, so that was a fun video. I thought it might be fun, man. Get everybody talking, reacting to your guys' comments. So check it out on YouTube. What I was thinking, if you guys leave a comment on this video, what's the worst omnibus you've ever read? Were you able to get through it? Did you read it to the end? You know, like what we were going over. And maybe if we get enough comments, we'll do a video on the YouTube comments. So maybe you could be highlighted there. Damn, man. Make sure to come join us over on Facebook. Search the group GemMintC. It's the only reason I'm on Facebook. Like-minded people that are collectors, that like to read. It's basically a therapy session for everybody. No, but appreciate you guys watching. Stay minty fresh. Peace.